Theravadan Buddhism, the most conservative and oldest branch of Buddhism still practiced, historically divides the 12-fold links of Paticca into 3 lifetimes: the previous lifetime, ignorance and fabrications; the present lifetime, consciousness, name and form, the sense faculties, contact, feeling, craving, clinging, and becoming; and future lifetimes, birth and death. This view has come under strong opposition by the noted Thai Theravadan scholar, Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, who supports the concept of momentary dependent origination, and who believes, dependent origination is a phenomenon that lasts an instant, it is impermanent. Therefore birth and death must be explained as phenomena within the process of dependent origination in everyday life of ordinary people. Mahayana Buddhism's greatest philosopher, Nagarjuna, based his entire philosophy of the emptiness of shunyata of all things on the Buddha's teaching of Paticca. Nagarjuna's concise but important Heart of Dependent Origination clearly and simply describes his ideas of the teaching, summing them up with this verse: "The whole world is cause and effect. Excluding this, there is no sentient being. From factors which are only empty, empty factors originate." The effects of Paticca can be seen not only within the individual, but within society as a whole. The Buddha gives a description in the Digha Nikaya of how the collective suffering of a society begins and continues. Following the individual 12-link formulation of Paticca until craving, it continues in this way. Conditioned by craving is seeking. Conditioned by seeking is gain. Conditioned by gain is valuation. Conditioned by valuation is fondness. Conditioned by fondness is possessiveness. Conditioned by possessiveness is ownership. Conditioned by ownership is avarice. Conditioned by avarice is guarding. Conditioned by guarding and resulting from guarding are the taking up of the stick, the knife, contention, dispute, arguments, abuse, slander and lying. Evil and unskillful actions of many kinds thus appear in profusion. Like all of the Buddha's teachings, the main emphasis of his exposition of Paticca was its usability, both for monks and laymen. One of the prominent points to be found in the teaching is a lack of a lasting I or self. Since there is no inherent goodness or badness within us, we each have the ability to determine the future quality of our lives without a predetermined barrier, allowing us to work towards better states of being. The nature of the teaching allows us to use whatever knowledge we have of the workings of the nidanas to disrupt and eventually halt the seemingly endless flow of samsara. For the knowledge of the Dharma, which Buddha equated with knowledge of dependent origination, is in itself a lessening of the grip of ignorance. The Buddha encourages us to utilize even the nidanas themselves to destroy the chain they create. This body comes into being through craving, and yet it is by relying on craving that craving is to be abandoned. Thus it was said. And in reference to what was it said? There is the case, sister, where a monk hears. The monk names such and such. They say, through the ending of the effluence, has entered and remains in the effluent-free awareness, release, and discernment, release, having known and realized them for himself in the here and now. The thought occurs to him, I hope that I, too, will, through the ending of the effluence, enter and remain in the effluent-free awareness release and discernment release, having directly known and realized them for myself in the here and now. Then, at a later time, he abandons craving, having relied on craving. The teaching of Paticca is not a pessimistic view of the world, with ignorance as a beginning and suffering as an end, throwing us perpetually in a multi-part circle between the two. It is a comprehensive description of the workings of this universe, and therefore includes the conditioning factors of awakening. Although the Buddha in several places describes how the ceaseless passing away of the previous link conditions the passing away of the next, and vice versa, in the Upanisa Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha describes a process by which jaramarana, or suffering, if not reacted with ignorance, can lead to knowledge of ending, or nirvana. Conviction has stress and suffering as its prerequisite. Joy has conviction as its prerequisite. Rapture has joy as its prerequisite. Serenity has rapture as its prerequisite. Pleasure has serenity as its prerequisite. Concentration has pleasure as its prerequisite. Knowledge and vision of things as they actually are has concentration as its prerequisite. Disenchantment has knowledge and vision of things as they really are as its prerequisite. Dispassion has disenchantment as its prerequisite. Release has dispassion as its prerequisite, and knowledge of ending has release as its prerequisite.
Sankhara nirodha viññāna nirodho viññāna nirodha nama rupa nirodho nama rupa nirodha salayatana nirodho salayatana nirodha phassa nirodho phassa nirodha vedana nirodho vedana nirodha tanha nirodho tanha nirodha upadana nirodho upadana nirodha bhava nirodho bhava nirodha jati nirodho jati nirodha jara maranang soka parideva dukkha domanasupayasa nirujjanti evametasya kevalasya dukkhakkhandasya nirodho hoti.